After losing my job and selling my tools to keep our lights on, I came home to find my wife laughing on the couch with her best friend. She said, "You're just too depressing lately." I spent the night in my car. The next morning, I overheard her on the phone bragging, "He's too stupid to know anything." So I transferred the house back to my name, then caught her and her lover moving in while I held the deed. I said, "You two better be out by noon." She screamed, "You can't do this." But I already had a U-Haul waiting for them. I'm 42 years old, living in Wichita Falls, Texas. Worked construction most of my life. Not rich, but steady. Paid the bills, kept food on the table, saved where I could. My wife, Molly, and I were together 11 years. Married 10. I thought we were happy. We weren't flashy. We weren't Instagram perfect. But we had what I thought was real. Late nights on the porch. Sunday mornings making pancakes. Dumb inside jokes. I thought that stuff mattered. But hard times show you what you really have. When the pandemic hit, construction jobs dried up. I went from a steady schedule to begging for scraps. I spent my days checking job boards and my nights wondering how we'd keep the lights on. I started selling my tools. First the extras. Then the good stuff. Tools I'd had since I was a kid working under my dad's truck. It tore me up. But I told myself it was worth it. To keep the water running. To keep Molly safe. She told me she understood. She told me we were in it together. Meanwhile, I was crumbling inside. One Thursday night, after spending 14 hours painting some rich guy's garage for $100, I came home dead on my feet. I pushed open the door, and right away, I heard it, laughter. Not TV laughter. Not YouTube videos. The kind of laughter people make when they forget you exist. I walked into the living room. There was Molly, sitting on the couch with Jason, her so-called best friend since high school. His arm was stretched across the back of the couch, close enough that it made my skin crawl. Her bare feet were resting in his lap. The smell of whiskey hit me in the face. They didn't jump up. They didn't scramble. They didn't even look that surprised to see me standing there, covered in sweat and paint. Molly just looked at me, gave this little sigh, and said, "You're just too depressing lately." Like I was an ugly painting she didn't want hanging in her house anymore. I didn't say a word. Couldn't even move. I just turned around, walked outside, climbed into my truck, and sat there. 6 months earlier, we'd talked about refinancing to get a better rate. She convinced me to transfer the deed temporarily into her name to speed up the paperwork. We never followed through, too many fees, too much red tape. But what she didn't know. After it fell through, I transferred the house back into my name. Quietly. Legally. The house wasn't hers. It never was. It was mine. I didn't waste time. I drove straight to the courthouse and requested a certified copy of the deed. Clerk took her sweet time, but after 20 minutes and $20, I had it in my hand. Black ink, official stamp, my name clear as day. I took a long, slow breath. I hadn't felt sure about anything in months. But right then, I knew exactly what I was going to do. When I got back, it was worse than I thought. Molly and Jason were carrying boxes into the house like they were moving in together. His truck was parked right where mine should have been, tailgate down, loaded up with duffel bags and a cheap mini fridge. Like they owned the place. Jason saw me first. He smirked, gave me this little chin lift, like I was the help or something. "What do you want, man? You don't live here anymore," he said, chuckling. I didn't answer. I just walked up, slow, unfolded the deed right in front of them. Held it up, one hand steady as a rock. Jason stopped smiling. Molly stepped out onto the porch, still carrying one of those ugly ceramic planters she loved so much. She froze when she saw what was in my hand. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. You two better be out by noon. Molly's mouth fell open. She dropped the planter. It shattered on the porch steps. You can't do this, she screamed. You can't. I live here. No, I said, my voice flat. I live here. You're trespassing. Right on cue, a U-Haul truck pulled into the driveway. I had called an old buddy, Rick, who runs a moving business. Told him I needed the house cleared out, everything that wasn't mine. No questions asked. Paid him $200 cash. Told him he could keep whatever junk he wanted. Rick climbed out, looked around, cracked his knuckles. Where's the junk pile? He asked, grinning. I pointed at the porch. Everything that's not mine. Molly tried to stop them. Stood in the doorway, arms spread wide like she could block the whole house with her 5 feet 4 inches frame. Jason started shouting about lawyers, about rights, about how I was gonna pay for this. Rick didn't care. His guys didn't care. They boxed up her clothes, her candles, her knickknacks, her framed pictures of sunsets with corny quotes. Hauled them out like yesterday's trash. Jason started grabbing his stuff too, dragging it onto the curb. Red-faced and fuming. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching. It felt like justice. No yelling. No punching. No drama. Just slow, brutal, unstoppable consequences. At noon, on the dot, I locked the door. From inside, I could hear Molly screaming and sobbing outside. I didn't open the blinds. Didn't look out. Just sat down at the kitchen table, cracked open a cold beer, and took my first deep breath in months. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought after throwing their stuff onto the lawn and locking the door, they'd leave. Go crawl back to whatever cheap motel they crawled out of. I was wrong. But then I heard something else, glass breaking. I ran outside just in time to see Jason kicking the side mirror off my truck. The same truck I'd been sleeping in. The one thing I still had left. Molly stood a few feet away, arms crossed, face twisted with anger. You think you can humiliate me? She screamed. Jason pointed at me, still breathing heavy from kicking the truck. You're gonna pay for this, you broke-ass loser. I looked him dead in the eye. You better be off my property in 2 minutes, I said, voice low. Or I'm calling the cops. He laughed. Stepped closer like he wanted to fight. I didn't flinch. You want to go to jail over this? You really want to add assault charges to trespassing? I said, still calm. Molly grabbed his arm, tugged him back. She was crying again now, tears streaking her face. He's not worth it, she hissed. They backed off, but not before Jason spat on the ground in front of me. Enjoy rotting alone in your shithole, he said. Then they left, squealing tires down my street, knocking over a neighbor's trash can as they went. I thought that was it. But 2 days later, a notice showed up taped to my front door. A lawsuit. Molly was suing me. Claiming she was entitled to half the house because we were married. Claiming she had nowhere else to go. Claiming emotional distress. I sat on the front steps, notice in hand, heart pounding. 11 years together. 11 years of birthdays and Christmas mornings and sick days spent making each other soup. And now she wanted to gut me like a fish. I got a lawyer. Found a tough-as-nails divorce attorney named Brenda who didn't sugarcoat a damn thing. She sat across from me in her dusty office, reading the notice, eyebrows raised. She's got no leg to stand on, Brenda said. You owned the house before marriage. You never added her to the deed officially. There's no mortgage. It's your separate property. She looked me dead in the eyes. But she's gonna try to bleed you dry anyway. You ready for that? I nodded. I didn't have much left to bleed, honestly. But I wasn't about to roll over. The weeks that followed were hell. Molly and Jason kept showing up. Keying my truck. Leaving trash in my yard. Once, they even spray-painted "loser" across my garage door in bright red letters. I installed cameras. I filed police reports. I documented everything. The court date was set for 2 months out. In the meantime, I kept my head down. Worked whatever odd jobs I could find. Started piecing my life back together, one miserable day at a time. One afternoon, maybe 3 weeks after they sued me, I came home to find the front door wide open. At first I thought maybe I forgot to lock it. But then I saw the broken lock. And the inside of the house, torn apart. Drawers pulled out. Couch cushions slashed. TV smashed. Beer poured across the kitchen counters. They didn't steal anything. Not that I had much left. They just destroyed it. Out of spite. I sat down on the front steps, hands shaking. Then I made a decision. No more sitting back. No more waiting for them to make the next move. I was going to fight. And I was going to make sure when it was over, neither of them would have anything left to take. After the break-in, I called the cops again. Filed another report. This time, they took it more seriously. The damage wasn't small. It was clear someone broke the lock, trashed the place, and left. Problem was, I had no camera footage. They must have pulled the plug on the power before coming inside. Still, I gave the cops Molly's name and Jason's. Showed them the lawsuit papers. Told them everything that had been happening. The officer, big guy named Ramirez, nodded like he'd seen this 100 times before. Get a restraining order, he said. Today. I listened. That afternoon, Brenda filed the paperwork. Temporary restraining order granted. If they set foot on my property again, they were getting arrested. Couple days later, another letter showed up. Not from Molly this time. From Jason. A handwritten note, crammed onto a piece of notebook paper, shoved into my mailbox without a stamp. It said, "You better watch your back. Molly deserves better. You're a piece of shit and you always have been. You should do everyone a favor and disappear." No signature, but it didn't need one. I called Brenda. She smiled grimly when she read it. Good, she said. He's a bigger idiot than we thought. She had me file it into evidence. Harassment, intimidation, all of it stacking up. Piece by piece. But the real break came 2 weeks before the court date. Brenda called me one morning, voice tight with excitement. Check your email, she said. I opened it. There, attached, was a batch of screenshots. Screenshots from Molly's public Facebook page. She had posted pictures. Pictures of her and Jason. Holding keys, posing in front of a brand new duplex. Caption, starting our new life together. Couldn't be happier. New place, new beginnings, 2 heart sparkles. The timestamp was from a week ago. Meaning, while she was suing me for emotional distress and homelessness, she had already signed a lease somewhere else. Lied under oath. Brenda laughed when I called her back. She just handed us the win, she said. I sat there, staring at the pictures. Jason with his arm around her. Molly flashing a peace sign, like she hadn't just tried to wreck my whole life. I didn't feel sad. I didn't even feel angry anymore. I felt clear. Court day finally came. I wore my best jeans, a clean button-up shirt, and the only decent pair of boots I had left. Molly showed up late, wearing sunglasses indoors like she was some kind of victim. Jason was there too, sitting in the back like a kid waiting for detention. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes, listened patiently as Molly's lawyer went on about how she had no home, no money, how I had emotionally abused her by kicking her out. Then Brenda stood up. Calm. Ruthless. She handed over the Facebook screenshots. Showed the texts Molly had sent me, still saved on my phone, bragging about how stupid I was. Submitted the police reports about the vandalism. The restraining order. The handwritten threat from Jason. Piece by piece, she laid it all out. By the time Brenda finished, Molly looked like she was about to sink through the floor. The judge leaned back in her chair, silent for a long time. Then she said, "Mrs. Parker, it appears you have been less than truthful with this court. I am dismissing your claim for spousal support and emotional damages with prejudice. Furthermore, based on the evidence provided, I am awarding Mr. Parker full and exclusive ownership of the property, and recommending further investigation into the criminal matters raised." Molly gasped. Jason muttered something under his breath and stormed out of the courtroom. Molly tried to run after him, but the bailiff stopped her until the judge officially adjourned. She didn't even look at me. Not once. Outside the courthouse, Brenda clapped me on the back. "Hell of a day," she said. I just nodded. I didn't feel victorious. Just free. But the story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Because 2 nights later, something happened that blew everything wide open. Something that made me realize Molly and Jason weren't just stupid, they were dangerous. 2 nights after the court win, I was finally sleeping decent. First time in months I didn't wake up every hour. Until about 3 a.m. I jolted awake to the smell of smoke. For a second, I thought it was a nightmare. Just a flashback or something. But then I heard it, the crackle. The heat pressing through the walls. I jumped up, barefoot, ran to the front window. My truck. My goddamn truck was on fire. The front end was already swallowed up, flames licking up the windshield. The tires were melting into black puddles on the driveway. I grabbed the phone, called 911, ran outside in nothing but my jeans. Neighbors were already coming out in their pajamas, yelling, pointing. Someone dragged a garden hose across the street, trying to spray it down, but it was useless. By the time the fire trucks pulled up, the truck was a burned-out skeleton. The same truck I'd slept in. Worked out of. The last thing my dad left me. Gone. I told the cops exactly who I thought did it. Molly. Jason. It wasn't even a question in my mind. But without cameras or witnesses, they couldn't pin it on anyone. Not yet. Still, the cops took it seriously. Arson's no small thing. They promised a full investigation. I doubted anything would come of it. People like Molly and Jason. They were too stupid to cover their tracks, but too slippery to catch easy. Insurance barely covered half the value. Didn't matter. I wasn't thinking about money anymore. I was thinking about payback. Real payback. I spent the next few days quiet. Moving in silence. Setting things up. See, what Molly didn't know was I had a few friends left in town. Old drinking buddies, guys from job sites, guys who owed me favors. One of them, Danny, worked security at the apartments Molly and Jason had moved into. Danny had cameras. Danny was happy to help me. Took about a week. But one morning, Danny called me, laughing so hard he could barely talk. "You gotta come see this, man." He emailed me a video file. I opened it. There, clear as day, was Jason, stumbling drunk through the apartment parking lot at 2 a.m. Trying to hotwire a motorcycle that wasn't his. Failing miserably. Face full in the camera. License plate clear as day. Molly in the background, laughing and filming him on her phone like it was a damn TikTok challenge. I sent the footage straight to the cops. Didn't even hesitate. Less than 24 hours later, Jason got arrested for attempted grand theft. Bail set higher than he could afford. Word got around fast. Molly started panicking. Posting vague Facebook statuses about fake friends and everyone betrays you eventually. She knew she was next. And she was right. Because while the cops were digging into Jason's little midnight stunt, they also started re-examining the arson. Started looking at Molly's phone records. Started looking at her text messages. And guess what they found? A text from Molly to Jason, the night of the fire, make it look like an accident. He deserves it. Clear. Simple. Damning. When the cops knocked on Molly's new door, she didn't even deny it. Folded like a cheap card table. Jason ratted her out too. Said it was her idea all along, that he just wanted to scare me. Not much loyalty between snakes. They both got charged. Jason for attempted grand theft and vandalism. Molly for conspiracy to commit arson and property damage. Both facing real time. Not just a slap on the wrist. Actual, honest-to-God time behind bars. I sat on my front porch the night I got the news. Cracked open a cold beer. Watched the sun dip down behind the neighbors' rooftops. Thought about all the years I gave her. All the birthdays. Christmases. Quiet nights where I thought we were building something. Turns out she was just waiting for a chance to burn it all down. Literally. The trials didn't take long. Small-town justice moves fast when you hand them a case gift-wrapped. Jason pled guilty to attempted grand theft and vandalism. Got 18 months in county jail. Molly fought harder. Tried to get her charges dropped. Tried to blame Jason for everything. But the texts were too clear. The lies were too obvious. In the end, she took a plea deal, 2 years probation, a huge fine, and a permanent criminal record. She cried in court. Begged the judge for mercy. Said she didn't know what she was doing. That she was confused and depressed. I didn't say a word. Just sat there in my clean jeans and worn-out boots, watching her world fall apart. Same way she watched mine. But revenge has a way of leaving a bad taste, even when you win. The night after sentencing, I sat alone on my porch again. Thought about everything. How I'd spent years loving a woman who saw me as a backup plan. How I let myself get broken down, piece by piece. How I didn't fight back soon enough. I wasn't blameless. I let things slide. I ignored the signs. Maybe if I'd fought harder for myself earlier, none of this would have gotten so bad. Maybe. Maybe not. Some people are just built to ruin whatever they touch. Molly was one of them. Life didn't magically get better after that. The house was still half broken from the inside. The truck was gone for good. I still had debts to pay. Still had to rebuild my reputation. But at least I had peace. Real peace. Not the fake kind you tell yourself you have when everything's falling apart inside. Word about Molly and Jason got around town fast. Wichita Falls isn't a big city. Everybody knows everybody. Nobody wanted to rent to an arsonist and a thief. Last I heard, they were living 2 towns over in some roach motel, working dead-end jobs, fighting all the time. Their new life lasted about 3 months before it crumbled. Couldn't even stand each other once the excitement of ruining someone else wore off. Me? I kept my head down. Saved up. Bought a second-hand pickup off an old buddy who was upgrading his. Took small jobs, patching fences, fixing roofs, painting barns. Little by little, I started breathing again. Started living again. I don't trust like I used to. Probably never will. And I sure as hell won't hand someone my heart without looking twice, 3 times. Maybe that's bitter. Maybe that's smart. Depends on how you look at it. Looking back, people ask if I regret how I handled it. If I regret getting petty. Getting vengeful. Truth? Not one bit. Sometimes people have to feel the weight of what they tried to do to you. Otherwise, they just move on and do it to someone else. Molly and Jason thought they could laugh at me. Use me up. Throw me away like garbage. Instead, they got exactly what they deserved. And me? I finally walked away with the only thing that mattered, my damn self-respect.